Hey everyone, Rob from the ProWresBlog here, www.ProWresBlog.blogspot.com. Hey, today we got something a little bit different. We got a review of WWF Primetime Wrestling from January 5th, 1987. They proclaim this show as the first WWF show of the new year, so there's going to be some kind of New Year stuff in. One of the big stories that goes on later is Bobby Heenan talking about his various New Year's resolutions. Something happened with Bobby before this. I don't know what it was. He claimed to have a headache. I think there was a storyline I probably missed there, but whatever, New Year. All right, first match on the show was the Dream Team of Greg Valentine and Brutus Beefcake with Luscious Johnny V as the manager versus the Island. There was a lot of leopard stripes or tiger stripes here. You guys know what I'm talking about. All that stuff you see from the 80s. Brutus was wearing them. Both Islanders were wearing them at some point. It may have set a record. Haku was so young here. He was completely fresh. He had no beard, facial hair, or anything. He kind of looks really funny. It's something else. Johnny V was wearing a really weird sweater. It was purple and it said "How Sweet It Is," and not like the usual type. It was up and down, so it was vertically. I don't know. It wasn't real ugly. It wasn't real great, but it was kind of ugly. Yeah, the match really wasn't very good at all. They went somewhere around 10 to 15 minutes, and it was just all stalling. Brutus Beefcake took at least 5 to 6 minutes to get into his ring gear. Johnny V kept rubbing his shoulders, which got kind of weird, and just wasn't moving. They just did it real slow, and by the time it did get moving, it was time for the finish. Um, the only real notable parts here were Valentine doing a kind of a weird tombstone on Tama. Uh, he hit the tombstone and then just like near the end he kind of went forward. It was kind of interesting because he didn't really protect him that much. Tama also hit a really nice crossbody. He got some super air on that one. And near the end, Johnny V got involved, and Tama went to nail him, and then they had the really weird finish where Brutus grabbed him and crotched him on the ropes, and he just fell down, and Brutus pinned him. It was a really dumb finish. I haven't seen it before, and hope I don't see it again because it didn't make that much sense. Gorilla talked about how this would have been a DQ had the ref seen it, and yeah. Yeah, I was glad this one was over. There was no heat for it, and it wasn't very good at all. Since this is the New Year's edition, they had some different stuff. They had a year in review for 1986, and they showed some clips of Hulk Hogan mostly. He spent most of 86 feuding with Paul Orndorff, and he also did a little bit of feuding with Macho Man and some other stuff. The next matchup was Tito Santana versus Jake the Snake Roberts. There were a lot of punches here mostly. It was punching and a little bit of stalling, of course, because this is the WWF. And they worked just a lot of basic holds, There were a lot of headlocks and chin locks and all that jazz. It kind of drifted between okay, but it mostly wasn't that good. Both guys did everything okay, but the match was just slow. It went too long, and I don't know. I didn't really enjoy it that much. The finish was really kind of weird, and they botched it. Tito just made his big comeback, which was pretty good. And then he had Jake in the figure four. Jake moved his body towards the ropes and went to go grab Damien while still in the figure four. He got him out, and they rang the bell, and they really didn't know what happened. The announcer said that it was a draw due to Jake not giving up to the figure four, which really doesn't make any sense at all. And Gorilla said the time limit ran out, causing the draw. But they didn't say that, so who knows. This was like 15 minutes here. I don't know. I didn't really enjoy it, but I don't know. I expected more from it. It definitely could have been better. Heenan talked about having a New Year's Eve party and said he sent presents to the primetime cast, but he said they never arrived. And then Heenan had this to say. She said she mailed them. Somebody left it. I know who did it. Alfred Hayes in Okerlund. Heenan was referring to Miss Betty here, his secretary, who never appears on screen, but is kind of a character ongoing in Primetime. The next matchup was Sivi versus Harley Race. This was really not good at all. It was just a real quick squash, and Offie looked pretty bad. He jumped on the middle ropes and tried to do like a reversal crossbody, and it took forever. Harley Race just watched him, and I mean, it was so delayed. And even Vince had to rip on him. Vince said, "CB Offie there with one of the worst moves I've seen in a long time." I really liked that one. I thought that was quite funny. The finish here was the Fisherman's Buster onto Offie. Couldn't have been over soon enough. Again, it was not very good. Heenan said that Harley Race wears elastic on his crown, under the chin to hold it up. He said, "The fans are applauding so loud that when he comes by, it sets up a draft." I like that line. That was clever. We had a Hart Foundation promo. They mostly talked about how Danny Davis is a great referee, and they kind of hinted that his cheating ways were going to help him win the title. Jim the Anvil Neidhart did some of the Egyptian dance here, which was kind of funny. And Brett claimed that they were going to beat the Bulldogs and take their tag titles. We got more clips from 1986. One of them had Johnny V nailing Captain Lou with a cake after the Bulldogs won the tag titles at WrestleMania 2. We next had Bret Hart, Jim the Anvil Neidhart, and Adrian Adonis versus Special Delivery Jones, Mike Rotunda, and Golden Boy Danny Spivey. I don't know what the point of this one was at all. I guess maybe just to get stars on TV or something. It only went like 3 minutes, and all they did was kind of punch each other. There were just a few punches. They each got, not that many people got in, and it really didn't go past 3 minutes. They just separate everyone, and Adrian Adonis got the Goodnight Irene sleeper hold on Jones and took him out. This was nothing to it, and pretty much a waste of time. All right, Bobby Heenan said his number one resolution was to manage the tag team champs, but he didn't have a tag team ready yet. Gorilla kind of ripped him on it. He's like, who's it going to be? Is it going to be Bundy and Hercules? Blah blah blah, and they were just coming up with different ideas. Then Heenan said his number 2 resolution was to manage the Intercontinental Champion. We next had the Magnificent Muraco versus Hillbilly Jim, and I think this one was from MSG. Either way, it doesn't really matter. This match was terrible. It was just really bad. They stalled, and it was slow, and I don't know, they just didn't do anything of interest. It didn't sound that good on paper, and it really wasn't. The finish wasn't very good either. Hillbilly Jim finally kind of had the upper hand, and he had Muraco in a bear hug, and Fuji just came from behind and decked him with his cane. And then they started putting the cane into his gut, and that was mostly it. Muraco here was wearing Piper's kilt and mocking Piper in different ways, even putting up the kilt to show some leg to really mock him. Thought that was kind of funny. Yeah, terrible match, and glad it's over. Jim also got his overalls ripped here, which I thought I should mention. We then went to the end. Heenan went over his last few resolutions. He said his 3rd one was to be the manager of the year. His 4th was to make more money than ever before. Number 5 was to manage the world champion. And Monsoon made a joke about it being Hogan. He's like, "You're going to manage Hogan?" And Heenan's like, "No, I'm going to manage someone who can beat Hogan." And then number 6 was to be the commentator of the year. And he said number 7 was SYM. I don't really know what SYM means. It said online that it means shut your mouth or so you mad. I'm thinking it's not the latter, and maybe it's the former. But whatever. Alright, and that pretty much wrapped up the show. Overall thoughts, this really wasn't a good show. All the matches stunk. They switched between squashes and really long stall fests, and it just didn't interest me. Heenan and Gorilla were cool as always, but it wasn't really enough to save this one. Really not recommended, and I don't recommend checking this out. But if you do want to see pictures and gifs from this and see my full review, you can check out www.ProWresBlog.blogspot.com. Thank you.